Greetings, curious minds and daring storytellers of the cybernetic age. Welcome aboard the digital dimension of AI Writers Connection. I'm your guide, Marigold. Today, we're diving deep into Sudowrite Story Engine, hacks, tips, and tricks. As we transverse the binary labyrinth, deciphering cryptic codes and unlocking profound secrets of AI-powered storytelling, we'll confront the uncanny mysteries hidden within the artificial mind. Tackling the spectral thread of horror fiction, you'll master the art of constructing fear, one chilling bite at a time. But before we embark, remember to ring that notification bell, subscribe, and smash that button to fuel our journey. Want to be part of the AI Writers Connections mission? Join our Discord group. The links in the description below. Now, with all hands on deck, shall we set sail? I am inside of the AIWC Story Engine Hacks, Tips, and Tricks. So, Nicole, can you confirm that that is the screen that you see right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So I like to use a lot of prompts. So when I am using Story Engine, I like to see just how far I can take my prompts and how much I can hack the system to get it to do what I want it to do. So I do a lot of massaging of the AI to prompt it to where I want it to go. Now you'll notice that in this prompt, I'm using it to write a horror premise or synopsis, but it's very bare boned. And I want you to know that even with something as bare as this, it's going to give me something that I can actually use. I'm going to go ahead and click on Story Engine. And we are going to remove this content. So I already generated something prior, and you can see that information here. So take a look at what I had generated prior. This is my character list with prompting. I'm showing this to you first because I want you to remember how detailed this character list is compared to what I get whenever I do not prompt the system. So we're going to generate the character list more than once today. So I'm not going to give the Braindump any additional information other than I want this to be horror, under the horror genre. I want it to give me a popular premise in the horror genre and subgenre for that base genre. I want it to add the 7 to 10 tropes, 10 to 15 themes, along with a series name and 1 to 2 sentence premise. So let's go ahead and hit generate. Now I did ask to have my premise as well as a synopsis to be generated with the Lester Dent template in mind, because that is one of the templates that I like to use whenever I'm writing any type of horror or thriller. Now with my prompting, you notice here where it says to provide a title along with a premise for books 1, 2, and 3, which we have right here. Okay, so moving forward, you notice that we have a title, we have a series name, we have book 1, 2, and 3 premise. This section here is our synopsis. So the reason why I like to do the 3-book premise is because right now, Story Engine does not allow me to actually have more than 12 chapters if I generate 100% through Story Engine. So if I break up my concept into 3 books, I could potentially go through the process 3 times and generate 12 chapters or parts for book 1, 12 for book 2, and 12 for book 3. I could make this into a long novel, or I could actually generate this concept as 3 novellas. So I give myself that choice. So with very bare-bones information, the system created a horror story synopsis that follows a Lester Dent mystery template. My little story is set in a small town in the Midwest where strange things have been happening for years. The main character, it gave me Sarah's full name, is a young woman who just returned from her hometown after years of living in the city. She has her childhood friends present. Let's see, there's Mark. He's a jock who never left town. We have Rachel Lee, a smart and successful lawyer. We have Jake, who is a conspiracy theorist. And then we have Emily. So Emily White, who is actually Sarah's estranged best friend. So we have our little ensemble cast of characters. So up here in my request, in my prompt, I asked for an ensemble cast. I asked for 3 guys and 2 girls. So any type of prompt that you put into your Braindump, you can push the system, the AI, to generate that content for you. So don't be afraid to tell the system exactly what it is that you are looking for. You can be as detailed as you want. So keep in mind, you have 2,000 words that you can fill out in that Braindump. And some of those words, make them prompts. Direct the AI. It is your resource to use. So this story begins with when the group decides to investigate some strange rumors that they have been hearing about. They stumble upon an old barn. Let's see, they witness an ancient ritual being performed by a group of cultists. So it's continuing to give me additional information about my story. I have asked right here, it's given me information. The story is full of tropes and themes that are common in the horror story. So some of the things that it's giving me is the setting includes a creepy barn, a dark forest, an abandoned hospital, and an eerie graveyard. The red herrings, it has pinpointed, letting me know that the red herrings lead to false leads about the identity of the cultists and the harvesters, as well as fake scares that keep the characters. Now, that information is really vague, and sure, I could trust the AI to maybe flesh that out more, but that's one of the areas that will kind of weaken my story. If I don't go in and fully flesh this content out, then that's where my vagueness of my story ends up generating beats that maybe will loop. So I always have to make sure that any type of information that I have within my synopsis is strong enough. So here, what kind of challenges and obstacles could they face? So let's see, if the group is facing many challenges, what kind of challenges can they face? Can they face maybe the elements? Maybe there's rain, it's cold. Maybe there's ice or snow. So what kind of obstacles? Cece, can you see comments?
Do you want the comments?
Yes, please.
Noisy neighbors, mysterious threats, letters, crooked sheriff, anti-cult extremist. There's a city-wide curfew.
Oh, I like that.
The floors in the barn have voices. Misinformation by broadcasting.
So what did it say about the floorboards?
The floor in the barns have voices.
So let's see, there are voices, citywide curfew, and there are voices coming from the
floorboard or the floor in the barn.
from under the floorboards. So they are forced to confront their deepest fears as they try to survive the night. So what kind of fears do you think that they would need to confront? So let's take a look. So we have the main character is Sarah. She's just returned to her hometown after years of living in the city. Let's give her something. So what could be her deepest fears? Let's say that Sarah faces the death of her sister who died in a car wreck.
Someone said Sarah is afraid of the total darkness after having been used to city light.
Mark is a jock who never left town. So let's say Mark is worried he'll never get to leave, that he'll be stuck in town forever. So he'll be stuck in a dead-end job. So we gave the AI a few details. Let's see if the AI will continue with the other characters. Let's tell it to give the other characters detailed fears. Each character has their own strengths and weaknesses, which are part of the test as they fight for their lives. So we don't know what those strengths and weaknesses are, but I do have another prompt that we're going to play with, and we're going to see what that other prompt does. I'm going to delete this information from here for right now. Again, it's talking about it being full of themes and tropes. So let's take a look. See, as the story reaches its climax, the survivors must face off against the cultists. Okay, so I'm going to go a step further here where it says that the themes are common. I'm going to ask it to list the tropes and themes. Sometimes it will actually list them in your synopsis whenever you generate this. It's kind of a luck of the draw whenever you use this prompt. Sometimes it will give you the full content. Sometimes you have to ask it to do it a couple of times. Manon? Yes?
Yes. Maybe I'm behind a bit there, but I see that you use another AI inside Story Engine. Using Jasper inside Story Engine?
I do. Actually, Jasper works within Story Engine. I have an account with Jasper, and I can actually use words through Jasper within Story Engine. I can actually use it within the Prose if I want to generate additional content, which I do sometimes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So this way you don't waste words by redoing the synopsis. Oh, perfect.
Right, and actually I can also turn on the Go Grammarly. Go Grammarly extension also works in here.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. So as the story reaches its climax, the survivors must face off against the cultists and harvesters in a final showdown. So I want to make this intense. Now, why am I putting these comments in here? Because in a little bit, whenever I generate my character list and whenever I generate my outline, I am going to use those embedded comments to direct the AI to provide additional details whenever I generate my outline, as well as when I'm generating my character list. So in book 2, the survivors are haunted by their past experiences. Okay, so this comment right here, they're haunted by their past experiences, that's way too vague. So if I were to keep that information in here and maybe have an epilogue, I would need to flesh this out. If I wanted an epilogue inside of book 1 that would kick off the tension for book 2, especially if I want book 1 to end with a cliffhanger. So this right here is just the AI telling you, hey, this is going to be a great story, I would just delete that. So in book 2, the survivors discuss their horrific experiences, and we'll say near death. Now, I would recommend that you get extremely detailed on the information that you're putting in here. This is still vague, but we want them to continue along the line of discussing what has happened. They are once again hunted by a group of cultists. So right here, so we're saying in book 2, the survivors discuss their horrific experience near death. They are once again hunted by a new group of cultists. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kill this right here, and I'm going to say at the end of this book, the survivors discuss their horrific experiences near death around a warm fire inside a cabin. We're going to say a knock at the door reveals a mystery package that's ticking. The box springs open with a clue leading them to believe they are once again hunted by a group. We're not going to say a new group, we're just going to say by a group of cultists who are even more dangerous than the last. We're going to kill book 3 right here because we're not writing book 3 right now. And I'm going to state end with a cliffhanger. Now, if I were doing this for my personal use, I would have gone through this with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that I had everything in place that I wanted. I'm going to remove this top section here. I'm going to place it over here in the Braindump just for safekeeping. I'm going to kill that prompt, and I will put the prompts inside of the Slack group later on. Manon, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a few questions in the chat. I was wondering if you want me to read them to you. And after that, Gianna, I also have a question for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's see if I can get back to the question at 3:22. Shouldn't the comments to the AI be inside brackets?
So I found that in the Braindump, I did not need brackets in the Braindump. And I also found that if I'm going to give simple directions, I can use parentheses to give directions. But if I have complex directions of, say I have a direction within a direction, then I would put that inside of a bracket. I would put my main comment or command in the bracket, and within the bracket, I would put some drilled down detailed information inside of the parenthesis. So kind of treat it like a math equation. You know how you'll have the brackets, the parentheses. You want to kind of treat it in that kind of a manner.
Okay. The next question is, can you ask SE to give you trop, I'm not sure if that's tropes she means, and themes that are more unique.
Yes, and some of my prior generations actually gave me a full listing of tropes with definitions. Sometimes the system will give you that, sometimes it doesn't. And we can come back and generate this again in just a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and generate the character list. But yes, it can give you detailed. Now, in my original prompt, if I had stated to give me a detailed list of my tropes and themes with definitions, it would probably go ahead and give me that.
Thank you. Beside that is Diana has a question for you. Her hand is raised.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hi. I'm sorry if you already said that, but like if you have in the beginning already an idea, like maybe there's a specific curse, would you also put that in the brain dump? If yes, how would you prompt it?
So if you already know what the curse is, then underneath your prompt, you would you give a bare-boned premise. Maybe there is a curse on the forest. Perhaps there's an old, deity, or maybe there is a demon that lives inside of a cave deep in the forest underground, and maybe he's the reason why the forest is the way it is, and maybe he has cursed the forest. So if that's the case, all that information would go into your brain dump, and you could actually leave that in your brain dump, because later on when you're generating further into the process, some of the cards will pull from the brain dump, but not all of them. If you're ever at a loss for what card will pull from what area, make sure that you're going up and looking at the little question mark, like for brain dump, this section affects your synopsis and beats. So this means that when you are generating your beats for your story, if you have lore in there, like for your curse, or you have backstory on some of your characters that's really pertinent to your beats, you could put some of that information in here inside of your brain dump, especially if it is unique to the chapter that you are generating.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
So keep in mind your synopsis only pulls information from the brain dump. Your character list only pulls from the synopsis. So your character list is not going to touch anything in your brain dump. So anything that's important that you may have had in your brain dump that did not transfer over into your synopsis, you would need to add it in there. So make sure that you're paying attention to the little question mark and exactly what, information it is pulling from. So if I look at my character list, the character list actually tells Story Engine how to write your characters. You have to be really detailed, be descriptive about your characters, but keep in mind that your characters will grow from chapter to chapter or scene to scene. So I had a character who died in one. So I had to make sure that I was updating my character list. This is why it's important to update your character list, because your character is not flat. They're not going to be the same character they were when you first started writing the story in chapter 1. So by the time you get to that midpoint in the book, they probably have already changed a few times. So you need to make sure that you're making updates to your character list, because anything that your character has gone through or any change, you can really detail that in your character list. So I'm going to go ahead and generate the character list, but before we do, see how detailed these are? This is from a prior generation. And do you see this prompt right here under synopsis? To write a major character list for this concept. That prompt right there gave me the information that you see inside of the character list. I am going to remove it for the first generation. And I'm also going to remove this content. So I want y'all to take a look at what it does.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
The question is related to the topic of character changing. Is there a best practice to retroactively modify the character in the past chapter when the change is made? A simple illustrative example, you change their name. That's Steven who has that.
So are you saying if you change the character's name? If you change, is that what I could
Maybe,
barely hear you.
yeah, maybe Stephen or Nina can.
Yeah, so basically, and one of the challenges seems to be, once, say you're on the 10th chapter, and you come up with some great idea for the character that has differentiated it from prior chapters. Is there a easy way to go back and kind of have that cascade retroactively back into the other chapters, or is that a manual process? So
that is a manual process, because I need you to think of all of your chapters as being individual silos. So every chapter that you generate prose on or beats on is its own little, forest. It's its own silo. It does not, your chapters will not speak to each other. So please keep that in mind. So if you had something horrific happen to a character in chapter 4, by the time you get to chapter 5, if it is not noted in your next chapter or in your next beats or updated in your character list, the AI has no way of knowing that because it does not have that connection. So again, think of each section of your book when you're generating prose as being siloed. It is up to us as the user of the tool to direct the AI. So if there is something specific there that we need that chapter to impart, or specific characters, or a specific tone or an event to happen, then we need to drive that with what we put into those beats.
And
again, go ahead.
In each character definition, is there one for each chapter, or is it to pull off one global character? So I guess the question I'm asking is, if you go back to chapter 1, are you using the updated character definition that where you could possibly refresh it or at least have it local? Or if I go to chapter 10 back to chapter 1, will I see the character definitions that I've originally developed in chapter 1, and it's a lot different than the one I developed from chapter 10?
So you have to be the one who updates that information. Story Engine is not going to follow those changes for you. The best that Story Engine can do for you right now is to go in and look at your history. So up at the top where the little clock was, I hit my history. Now I can go in and look at the history of any of these. So here I can look at my minor characters. I can look at any changes that occurred within these timestamps, and it keeps that history. So I could potentially go back and look at an earlier generation of my characters, or earlier template of it that I may have put in there myself, but Story Engine itself is not going to go in and make those changes for me. So keep in mind that any change that's made to your character list, you must do physically.
Okay.
So this generation was done straight up 100% just from what Story Engine will generate. So it's not bad. The developers have now ensured that it's going to give us a first and last name. It's going to give us age of the individuals. It will give some job information. It will give us information about the character. Now, keep in mind, I put this in here. She is haunted by the memory of her sister's car accident and has a deep-seated fear of the dark. So I put that information into my synopsis, and that carried over into my characters. Now, do I want to write every single chapter with that information in there? Probably not, because in every chapter she's going to be scared of the dark, and there's going to be some scene that's going to throw her into the dark. So what I like to keep in my character list is usually very bare-boned, and I like to only put information in there that's going to impact my character. So let me show you what I like to do. Well, this actually gave you the secondary characters too, which is always nice to have those secondary characters. If you have a secondary character list, that means that the AI, if it is generating and has a call for a new character, it will first look at your secondary characters to see if one of those characters fits the bill of what's being generated. If so, then it will pull from that secondary list.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go ahead and generate with my prompt. So I added this right here. Let's see if it'll provide a full list of the setting, location, provide a full list of the tropes and themes. Let's see if we have enough room for that. Now here I do have brackets. So if you notice, I have an opening and an ending bracket. If I have something that I want to really drill down into, maybe I want to go a little bit further about the motivations of the characters and I want to dive deeper into that, then I could put something in parentheses right after the motives of the characters. I could put something in there that says childhood trauma. It impacts the character's motivation. I could do that and it would impart that information and prompt the AI to incorporate that. So let's go ahead and generate.
Can I ask one other quick question on the characters? If I know you have her, she's in her mid-20s. So if you have a story that starts with, and the character is 5 years old, and in the third chapter it's 15, 16 years later, you would need to update that to 21 years old, right? Or something.
100%.
Okay.
And keep in mind, not only would you have to update that information, but there's a big difference between maybe the motivations or strengths and weaknesses of a 5-year-old versus somebody that's maybe 7 or 12 or a young adult, new adult. So keep that in mind. The generation that I did here, it changed the age of my character. She is 32. If you have a specific age for your characters, make sure that you're putting that in your synopsis, because remember, your character list generates off of your synopsis. Anything you want your character to be, you need to make sure that you're stating that in the synopsis as far as how that character, their age, their personality type is impacted by the synopsis. Now, you'll notice that I use the Myers-Briggs personality type. Other people use other types of personality types. I'm just familiar with Myers-Briggs, so I tend to fall back on that. One thing that I like about having that is that it will instantly tell the AI, this is the personality type. And that way, when the AI comes up with a situation to dump my characters into, that personality type is going to direct how my character is going to react in a setting or in a situation. So if I have a character who is really meek, or scared, she or he may shy away from maybe danger. If I have a character who is protective and, brave and feels, the need to protect the group as a whole, that individual, depending on his or her personality traits, that will determine how that character behaves in a specific scene of your book. So that's one of the reasons why I use those personalities. So if you notice here, she's an INFJ. Her descriptor words are, she's compassionate, introspective, she's strong-willed, intuitive, she's protective. So that goes hand in hand with that INFJ, but she's also brave, determined, and fiercely loyal to her friends. So all of that comes into play when we're writing. Does somebody have a question about the character list and some of the content that is in here?
I do. Does this work with enneagrams too?
Yes, ma'am, 100%. I think Nicole uses those.
Oh, okay.
So definitely 100%. So if you are more comfortable with that personality type method, make sure that you're using that. 100% helps to drive your AI.
I also have a question in reference to characters, because I was working on my story today, and I noticed that, and of course I'm bringing in my own story, and I took my time and work on the synopsis as well as the characters. I even took my time and work on the beats. However, when it generated, it brought in like a mother, like it brought in her mother where it's only supposed to be her and her uncle.
Okay.
So I was trying to figure out, like, and I went back and I'm like, I have nothing about the mother. Like, where did this mother come from? And I didn't particularly want her in the scene. So it keep generating with
The mother?
Her mother being there. And I don't know how to fix that.
So I'll show you how to fix that. That is a prompt that you will put in at the top of your beats that tells the AI that only these characters are in the scene. You give a character list that specifies who is in the scene.
Okay.
So if there are 5 people in the scene, then you state that, character list, and you state the characters. And how you can word it and state, these only use these characters. You want to avoid using the word no. The AI does not like no, doesn't understand no. The character does not understand do not use. It does not understand that. You can tell it to avoid adding other characters. Avoid is a word that the AI does understand. So if there's something you don't want in there, tell it to avoid using that specific item. But you will specify what characters are inside of your scene. You're also going to specify, you can specify time of day, you can specify the weather. If it is sunny, you can state that. If it's nighttime, if it's raining, if it's cloudy, if they are under a bridge and it's dark and dank, put that inside of your header for your beats. So let's take a look at the minor character list. Again, why do I use a minor character list? Because I asked it to use some of those archetype characters. These are characters that can be toss-away characters. They are generally maybe the historian. So we have Evelyn, she's a kind-hearted librarian. We have the eccentric old man. We have the rebellious teenager. We have the mysterious stranger. So all of these individuals hit a specific archetype. And archetypes work really well within your story, and you see them in movies, you see them in books. So again, pay attention to your minor characters. The other thing I want to point out, make sure that you are not using names that could confuse your AI, assistant here. So Carol, most of the time this spelling will generate a female, but be careful because the AI could get that mixed up with the male version of Carol. So you could end up with your character, if it's an androgynous name, you could have a scene that is written all within the same chapter. Stride 1 and 2 could have the person listed as a male. Stride 3 and 4 could list the person as, female. The next stride could be using they, them. So be specific. If you have a name that is unisex, make sure that you are specifying, the gender of the individual, or at least the very least the pronouns that that person will use. Otherwise, the AI will get really confused. And again, we have a little note from the AI hoping that this fits the requirement better. Whatever information you want to impart to your characters, you will do it here. So again, in your synopsis, play around with it. Be very direct. The AI cannot do anything without your direction. Remember, the AI does not write for you. You direct the AI, you guide it, and then it will generate prose. So remember, it's not writing your story for you. You're writing the story. You're directing it. And that's why your beats and everything have to be succulent, and you have to give it direction. So bear with me a minute here. I am going to go to our outline prompt. And as you can see, that's pretty long. So some of the things that I want to point out here.
If it is a romance, you want to make sure that there is a happy ever after or happy for now ending. If it's a thriller, you don't necessarily need that unless it is a thriller with romantic elements. I am asking very specifically, I'm asking for 25 chapters. I know it's only going to give me 12, but I understand from the development staff that at some point they're going to have a release that's going to allow us to have anywhere from like 20 to 30 chapters generated. So I'm really waiting for that to happen. I don't know when yet, but at some point that will come to pass. So I'm prepared. I'm ready for that. But this same prompt, if you use this in Claude, ChatGPT 4 or 3.5, if you use this prompt, it will give you 25 chapters if you use it with your synopsis. Now keep in mind, I'm telling it in bracket that there's certain information that I won't put in brackets. I want it to add the description for the setting. I want to know where my characters are. In addition to setting, I want to know the tone of the chapter. I want to know the location. I want it to apply guardrails, drivers, focus points, because I want the AI to focus. I want the themes, the tone and style of the character. I want the character's development, plot points, conflict. I even want the resolution to the created beats. If there's something that needs to be resolved, I want to know when it's resolved. I want that to be very specific in my beats. I want it to use only the provided characters with appropriate pronouns unless additional characters are needed. I want it to remember to identify red herrings, any romantic plot points, intimate points, and any important elements of the manuscript. Now, could you add others? You betcha.
Wow, this gives so much control. Awesome.
You can really control this. So I would remove the first one that you used to create your character list, and then I would go ahead and add it in here. Now let's take a look. What is your outline pull from? Let's see. So our outline looks at genre, synopsis, and characters. So since it looks at genre, I haven't put anything in the genre yet. I haven't put anything in the style, but I am going to come up here and I'm going to put in, let's see, we want horror. We want mystery. We want cursed. Let's see. Now I know that these are not genres, but I am going to put in here a specific note to up the creep factor, raise the tension, and make it dark, gritty, and we can make it bloody too. Let's see what it does. Now, one of the things that I learned from Nicole, she was doing a class once that I had attended. She mentioned, and it just really resonated with me, that the very last word that you use generally is in your genre or style, the AI is going to really look at that. So do I really want it to look at the bloody word, or do I want it to look at it being dark? So I'm going to switch these words around. Now, if I have a horrific scene, maybe there's, a psycho scene where somebody's in the shower and there's a knife, well, then I could put bloody there. And anytime that you are generating a chapter or beats and you have a change and you know that the tone of your content is changing, you're going to change your genre and your style. That's what's going to give your body of work a completely different feel. So we have something in our genre. You can put a lot more in there. You can put more tropes. You can put additional themes in there. Direct the AI. Don't be bashful. So again, here's our long prompt. It's not going to give me the 25 chapters, not yet, but you know, I'm hopeful. I can't wait until it does. So let's generate.
Hey Marigold, while you're generating, we've got a couple questions here, and I'm back. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great. So,
ready?
Go ahead.
Seth wants to know if it will understand the tone is dark versus the room environment.
It will understand that the tone is dark. So generally, whenever I say that it is dark within the genre, it will make the story itself dark. If I go into style and I say that it's dark, gritty, edgy, then that's going to really impact more of my character's tone rather than the overall feel of the story. So if you are in style, keep in mind that a lot of the words that you use in style are going to impact your character or the narrative. But if you want the overall story tone, one of the things that you can do is impart that information in your genre with the words that you choose there for your genre, subgenre, and for your tropes and themes. If you want to impart that in your style, then within style, you would tell it that you would state story tone, and then either a colon or a dash, and then you would state what that is. If it is your character's tone, you can say, you know, write in Mark's first person deep POV, and then you could use his descriptor words. You could make him adventurous, practical. You could make him reliable, good-humored. If good-humored was the very last thing in your style box and you're describing him, then he's going to have some good-humored, you know, conversation. If you are using something like reliable or adventurous, so if you put adventurous in there, he may want to go through the forest and he's just amazed by everything. Pay attention to your word choice and how they are positioned within your style, because I like to use these words and put them in my style box for my character who is speaking, because that indicates how I want my character to sound. Keeping these inside of my character list, the AI gets to pick and choose what's happening here with those tones. So let's see. Sarah, we just only used 700 of our 1,700 words. I could so beef this up. If I wanted to, I could remove this. I could take it to ChatGPT. I could ask it, hey, Chat, evaluate my outline. What would make it stronger? Give me examples. And guess what? Chat or Claude would actually spit out examples of what would make this stronger. And if I looked at some of the things that it said would make it stronger and I liked them, then I would say, hey, Chat, or, you know, Claude, whichever one I'm in, I'd say, go ahead and add those, but let's add some additional content. Talk back and forth. By show of hands, how many of you use an outside AI? So now would be a good time to do that. If you were to copy this, yeah, a lot of you do, I see that. So if you were to copy this, I would then take my outline into my AI. My preference is ChatGPT-4. There are some people who love Notion. I have not been in it enough to really get comfortable with it. John Crisson, I think that's his last name. He is a whiz when it comes to Notion. I know that Elizabeth is also using Notion now, and they just can flow right through that Notion, workflow. Other people like to use Claude. I think that Nicole and a few other people really like to use Claude. And so get together with some of those people, ask questions out in Slack. But if you take your outline, you can ask for it to provide additional information and evaluate. So taking a look at my outline, I would have taken it into like ChatGPT, or I would have asked for that evaluation. I would have made sure that it was iron tight. I would have made sure that there was nothing vague in here. So vague, this right here. She is also haunted by her strained relationship, with her estranged best friend. Well, why are they estranged? I don't know. Does the AI know? The AI probably doesn't know that either. And the AI doesn't know that because you know what? I didn't tell the AI why. So that is on me to decide what that relationship was. What strained it? Was it because her friend got the job that she wanted? Was it over a boyfriend? Did her friend steal her dog? I mean, I don't know, but that's on me to figure that out. So right here, this is another one. He explains how he believes they are responsible for the bizarre happenings. Well, that's great, but what does he explain? What's the meat of that? That is far too vague. That will not give you strong enough beats. Let's take another look. Okay, so as the group prepares for their investigations, Sarah experiences fear and doubt due to the tragic death of her sister in a car accident years prior. So I would take that a step further, and I would say, in parentheses, that accident impacted her ability to make snap decisions because of her self-doubt, because she does not feel that she can trust her instincts. Be very direct. Otherwise, you're going to have really vague beats. Okay, so let's look at 4. The group arrives at the barn and discovers an ancient ritual being performed by Emily and the other cultists. So what kind of ritual is it? I don't know. You could be specific, or you could trust the AI to give you something. Here's a character. He's an eccentric old man, appears and helps them escape the barn. So he shows them a hidden passageway. He shares his knowledge about the cult members and their connection. Now, the AI might be able to impart this information, and the AI might do really, really well. But you know what? It may not match your thought of what that cult is. So it's your job to make sure that the AI stays on task. If it's not staying on task, then you need to give it more direction. So I actually want to play with number 4. I want to see what kind of beats number 4 gives me. Now, can you generate outside of, order? You betcha. If I wanted to start with the last chapter and generate, I could start with the last chapter. Remember, your beats and your chapters, when you are generating them, they are siloed. So I'm going to go, just for the sake of being able to show y'all some additional information, I am going to go get my next prompt. Now you might notice here I have double brackets. Not only do I have double brackets, I have some single brackets inside of my prompt, and then I also have parentheses. I'm going to go back into Story Engine. And keep in mind, before I would move forward with my beats, I would have taken this and I would have tightened it. But to tighten it would probably take me several hours because I would do a lot of it manually and I would go back and forth with the AI, and we don't have time for that in this session. So I'm going to go ahead and put my prompt up here. Now, let's take a look at our beats. What are they impacted by? Okay, so if I have lore about, the curse or the cult, it better be in my brain dump because that's going to push this content forward. If there's a prophecy, it better be in the brain dump because I need that information to flow into my beats. My genre had better have some really good standard genre for it. For horror, it should have my information for my subgenre, and I need to have something in my style. It's going to pull from my synopsis, my characters, and my outline. So I better make sure that all of those components match what I want it to do. So if I am going to generate, say, chapter 4, I better make sure that all of those sections are going to feed chapter 4 with the right information. If I don't have the right information, it's going to go off the rails, or it's not going to give me the information that I want. That is how much micromanagement you have to do when you're writing to keep it on track. At least that's what I have to do to keep it on track. I'm an extreme plotter planner though, so I love this stuff. So let's see. I want to know in chapter 4. So Walter shows up. The group arrives at the barn. So let's go ahead and make this from Sarah's point of view. And I'm going to take a look at Sarah. So Sarah is brave, determined, fiercely loyal. She's returned home. So if I wanted to put something in, style about Sarah, I could do that in the style box. But you know what I really want to put in there? I want to put in there something about my story. So what do y'all think? What kind of story do you think this needs to be? Let's see. Unmute yourself and give me some suggestions for the story tone. What kind of story tone should I have for that chapter where the barn is and where, they're worried about getting caught? So here, let's go back and take a look. The group arrives at the barn. They discover an ancient ritual being performed by Emily and the other cultists. So there's a secret passage and he shares knowledge. So let's take a look at this. It should be
tension and drama.
There should be tension and drama. So let's put that down here.
Like foreboding, maybe?
Foreboding. What else? How about creepy?
Yeah, creepy.
Thriller.
Thriller. So we're going to put thriller down here. And these words are words that I think about for that chapter. Now, my next chapter that I do, am I going to use these same words? Probably not, because it may not apply to that chapter. But I'm going to show you just bare bone information in here. I'm going to go over. I have this, telling it to flesh it out. I'm asking it to add a description for the setting. I want to know where they're at. I want to know the tone. So even though I gave it a tone, I'm asking for the AI to give me tone also. I want the time of day as needed without repeating any beat scenes. It should take place, so I like my stuff to move fast. So do you notice that I have that within brackets? I want my chapter scenes to take place anywhere from hours to under a day. Now, if this was like a Scottish Highland, maybe I want it to take place across months, then I would specify that. Now, if there's a resolution, I want that in the beat. If there is no resolution, I want that in there too. I want it to please create plenty of opportunities for budding attraction. If this is a romance, if not, you would kill it. I want there to be mounting horror scenes to drive up the fear factor, make it gritty, dark, and gruesome. Again, I'm putting trigger words in there. Please use only the characters from this list. Okay. So what did I say about not and no, or do not use? Remember what I said about that earlier? Avoid not, because it will not give you what you want. So you want to say avoid being vague. Any words in a way as to avoid confusing an AI. The AI, for whatever reason, does not like to be told no, and it does not like do not do something. So let's go, I want to do number 4. So let's play with 4. So here's my chapter 1 over here. Here's my chapter 4. I can do them out of order. Doesn't hurt anything. I have my prompt. Now keep in mind that if you're a script writer, everything that I have done up to this point with my prompting, you can be very specific with your prompts. So any script lingo that you want in there, such as avoid, on the nose dialogue, you would use that information as well. Okay, so here are my beats. So it immediately says, introduce the group of 5 friends investigating strange rumors in town. You know what? I don't want to introduce them because they've been introduced in chapter 1. So, I would have to rewrite this or take it into ChatGPT or some other AI and ask it to evaluate it. I can even ask an AI to evaluate my beats and ask it to identify any issues that an AI may have, to pinpoint any vagueness or confusing terminology or instructions. I can ask it to add my guardrails. So sometimes the guardrails will come through whenever I request that. Now, it's a request in my prompt. Sometimes they come through, sometimes they stay in the back end, and sometimes they're interwoven within my beats. I like to have my guardrails front and center. I like to know that the AI is going to pay attention to what my guardrails are. So I will do a lot of my plotting for my beats. I do that either manually by hand, or I will take it into like ChatGPT-4. And I know I mentioned chat, but that's kind of my go-to and what I'm comfortable with. As a user, you're going to use what you're most comfortable with. But I have found that by prompting Story Engine, I get better information, better details. So here, the 5 friends. Okay, well, you know what? We should be putting their names in here. So who are our 5 friends? So we have Sarah, Mark, Rachel, Jake, Emily. Sarah, Mark, let's see. Emily, was it Jake? And Rachel. Now, why did I do that? Because I don't want the AI to name my friends something else. So I'm going to use their names. Now, notice that they're right here too. But it opens, and this is the first thing that our AI sees. The 5 friends, Sarah, Mark, Emily, Jake, and Rachel, investigating strange rumors in town. So they investigate strange rumors in town. About a spirit that sucks the soul from people lost in the woods. I don't know. I haven't planned the story out, so I'm just putting whatever comes to mind there, including, so again, it is including these individuals. Now, I could remove this because it's talking about, I already have the names up here. Now, Sarah's a strange best friend and an antagonist in the story. Well, you know what? I need to know who the antagonist is in the story. Don't rely on your AI to come up with that information for you. You need to be clear on who these individuals are. So let's see. Jake seeks the strange occurrences. Here, Sarah's a strange best friend and an antagonist. So we know Emily is the antagonist. So you know what? We're going to come over here. We're not going to let the AI become confused. So Emily. So the 5 friends, Sarah, Mark, Emily, Jake, and Rachel, investigate strange rumors in the town about a spirit that sucks the soul from people lost in the woods. And then we're going to say, even Emily, and I can remove Emily from here. Even Emily, Sarah's estranged best friend and the antagonist, Emily, in the story. So I've been direct. I've told the AI who is who. Now it says describe the ancient ritual being performed. So you know what? The AI might be able to do that. And I'd be kind of curious to see how it describes it, but I may not like it. So will it be dark and foreboding enough? I don't know, but we can take a look and see. So now take a look at what this says. Describe the ancient ritual being performed by Emily and the cultists. So what is Emily doing here in beat 2? She's participating. So if she's participating, how can she be up here having a conversation? So pay attention to the chronological order of your beats. So that means that it's no longer 5 friends, there are 4. 4 friends, Sarah, Mark, Jake, and Rachel, investigate strange rumors in town about a spirit that sucks the soul from people lost in the woods. Let's say they're worried about their friend Emily because she's lost in the woods. And then we can say, note, Emily is Sarah's estranged best friend and the antagonist in the story. So now she's no longer present. Now we're going to describe ancient ritual being performed by Emily to Sarah, Mark, Jake, and Rachel's surprise. Horror, let's say, to their horror. And the cultists in detail, driving the core of the theme and drama of the story by revealing more about cultists and their connection to the harvesters. Okay, so I'm curious what the AI is going to do with this. This is kind of vague, but I want to know what the AI can do. So I'm curious. So I'm going to grab. Now, if I didn't want to waste words, then I would probably go in and make sure that that was solid. So right here, I'm going to take this information. Let's see. We're going to talk about some of these and why they don't always work. What time is it? Okay.
I think you got about a half hour.
You're okay. Wrong box. Okay, so this information right here, write in character's third person deep point of view, make the story tone dark, edgy. I could put that in my style box if I wanted to, but I'm being a little bit lazy, so I'm going to direct the AI here in the beats. So we want to write from whose POV? Sarah's? Third person deep POV. How about we make this past tense because we don't want it to flip between past and present. Make the story tone edgy, dark, and gritty. I also have it in the style box. So if I wanted to empty my style box, I could if I wanted to. Now, I'm also going to add the following. So this is JSON, and why do I have this here? I have this here because this prompt right here is like super long. I mean, we're talking a really long paragraph. So if you have a really, really long prompt that you want to use and it's just eating up too many of your words somewhere, stick it into ChatGPT-4, stick it into Claude, and just ask it to give you a JSON, JSON prompt, and to remove all the extra spaces and give it to you in paragraph form. So what does this tell it to do? It's telling the AI to stay on task. Task means that it must continue the suspense story, or I can name it, I can say that it's a horror suspense. I'm asking it to direct the POV. Main character is Sarah. I want it to use sensory details. Sensory details are important. And notice how it says true. If I didn't want sensory details, I'd say false. Internal thought. Do we want internal thought? Do we want that to be true or false? Do we want her to have internal thought?
Yes.
Okay. Avoid filter words, filler words. So do we want to avoid action taglines for the dialogue? No, we want to have action taglines. So we would not want to put this here. What we would say is we're avoiding filters, fillers, and we're actually going to say not action, we are going to get rid of empty taglines for dialogue. The ending must be a cliffhanger. We want the tone to be gritty, dark, edgy, dark, sarcasm. Let's make this spooky. We could use foreboding. This is a big one. Use the 5 senses. True. Include dialogue. True. Use sentence variety, definitely. Have the mood be suspenseful, You betcha. Setting detail level, I want it high. Now, I might want it low if it's more of an internal scene. This is really good whenever you're using it for script writing. So if you're a script writer, pay attention to your setting detail level, and you may want to play with whether it's high, medium, or low. So your character interaction, we want deep. We want a deep plot progression. We want it to move gradually. Dialogue requirement as needed. And we want our sentences to start with a variety. Okay. How many of you, by show of hand, have had issues with the AI actually doing the first 2 strides, showing you almost like a summary of all 12 beats? That is so annoying, isn't it? Well, CC, or Wordspinner here, came up with this really cool prompt. And this guardrail basically tells the AI for beats 1 and beat 2, begin writing the story immediately, start with the action or dialogue, and avoid providing a summary or overview by jumping directly to the scene. That works a big portion of the time. Okay, use action beats to write all dialogue tags. Does that work? Sometimes, but it's not, for me, it's not, it doesn't always work for me. Now here's another one that Wordspinner and I were on the phone with, and we kept saying, oh my God, why does it keep trying to bow, tie everything up with a bow? We don't want the bows. So she came up with this guardrail: do not write beyond this point. We stick those on our evens. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that goes on all of our even ones. Because remember, the AI runs 1 and 2, runs 2 beats together. So that always goes at our end. So here's another one: always show, not tell. Always show. We're going to kill not. Always show. Avoid tell or telling. Avoid all speech or dialogue tags, and use action beats, or you can say use only action beats. Now, will the AI pay attention? Sometimes, but it's kind of like an unruly teenager at times. Sometimes it listens and sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to generate this. Keep in mind, I have told it whose POV. So let's play with this. I'm going to add this. Further down, I'm going to remove this because I have that prompt up here. I also have this prompt up inside of my JSON. It doesn't always work though. Go ahead.
Quick question. In that guardrail right above there, it says do not write beyond this point. You're using a not. Would it be better to say stop writing at this point?
Yep, exactly. So guardrail for beat 1 and 2. So what do we want it to say?
No, I'm talking about the one above that.
Right. So we have this one for pushing it, and we don't have any no here. We have nothing there. But right here on this one, we want to change this to avoid writing beyond this point.
Now you have it up higher too.
Yep.
Avoid. Now, for some reason, this one will work on the do not, but not always. Avoid resolving the tension or exploring what's behind the door. End the scene here.
You also have that right below your JSON.
Okay, so right here, we have the same prompt that we have down here. I'm going to kill that. So again, so do we have all of our do nots and no's removed? So I'm only going to do beat 1 and 2. I like to use most accurate. So as soon as I start generating, I'm going to hit pause. Okay, it's still using whispered. Yes, Ed, you have a question?
Yes. Since you're using most accurate in the horror genre, is that a problem for ChatGPT with how it feels about,
Violence and
violence? I couldn't think of the word.
So no, because if you're in ChatGPT, then yes, because think of Chat as the company, and Chat has built a shell around OpenAI's GPT. Sudowrite is the name of the shell, or Story Engine is the name of the shell, and they have wrapped their shell around GPT. GPT-4, at its raw state that Sudowrite has brought in and is using for Story Engine, they get to massage it and turn it into what they want. And that is why GPT-4 and 3.5, that's why in Story Engine you can write sexual content, you can write violence, because they don't have the same type of censorship that, say, Jasper has, or that NatDev has in some of its options, or that Chat GPT has. So if it's straight from the source of OpenAI GPT, you can write sexual content or violence. The only thing you can't write is minor sexual content, because that is something that is kind of universal to within the AI to try to avoid that content from being written.
Thank you.
Sure. You have a question, Hope?
Yes, I'm not familiar with guardrails. What do they do and how do you use them?
So your guardrail, Cece, can you pull up the definitions for guardrails, focus points, and for drivers, and put that inside of the chat?
Sure.
Okay. So your drivers do just that. Your drivers are going to drive your scene. It's going to tell the AI that this is the direction that the scene is moving. Your focus point kind of puts a spotlight on a specific part of your scene and tells the AI, I need you to focus on this. Do not veer away from this. You're focusing on this right now. And then your guardrail can be used in one of two ways. Your guardrail can either say to avoid doing something, or your guardrail can tell the AI, hey, this is a secret. Please do avoid this. So again, your guardrail is set in place to direct the AI to keep something secret, to, if you have a character who is dead and is a ghost, your guardrail is going to stipulate that this person has come on the scene, but in ghost form, and you cannot go outside of the scope of what I have defined as what a spirit is or a ghost is.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. So I still have some of that content in here. I still have some of those empty taglines. They're easy enough to edit out. And this stopped right here. So this gave me 471 words. So as they continued through the hidden passage, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if it was already too late for Emily and for all of them. Now, that's a little bit better than the typical bows that I see, where we're all in this together, which you'll see with romance. If this was my book that I was writing, I would kill that line and I would end with what Walter says. Because that's a better hook. And then I would continue to generate. Do you have any questions? because I know that we need to get ready for the next class. Boy, y'all are a silent group.
You've done a good job.
Yes, you have done a very good job. Marigold, I do have a question because I'm still, it's taken me a long time to transfer from my script to a novel because I'm still working on that, and I find I get frustrated because I know exactly what needs to happen, and then trying to generate my prose just to compare and do like a kit bash, I guess, kit bash, where I put it together, where I cherry pick the best and add it to my story. And because my book is a series, it's like a mini series that I'm doing, I know what's going to happen in book 2. So my question is, in reference to book 2, should I maybe put it in Braindump, a general synopsis of it, and then have it generate and just begin to edit as I go, or should I just work on everything independently and bring it into Story Engine?
So the problem with putting your synopsis from a prior book in there, it can pull some information, but what you have to be careful of is that when you're generating beats, you know, the system is going to look at your brain dump and it's going to pull that information in, and it may misunderstand and pull some of it in as elements that are live in your story now. So I would avoid that, and I would only put the information in that impacts your beats, because it's not going to say, oh, this happened prior, so I don't need it in here. And it's also not going to say, oh, I need to hold on to this because this doesn't happen until chapter 5. It may not understand that. Now, if you specify in your brain dump that, you know, XYZ happens in chapter 5, then the AI may hold on to that, but I would put that in a segment or a little section by itself in a bracket so that the AI knows that it's self-contained.
Okay.
Now, did you say that you're converting a script to novel?
Yes.
So keep in mind that when you're converting a script to novel, a script is going to be void of a deeper POV. So it's all about action lines. It's all about the action, and it's all about the dialogue. So when you convert it to a novel, you're going to have more narrative prose that's going to have that deeper point of view. That's one area that you're really going to have to work with in editing, because the AI does not write as deep.
Yeah.
So.
Right. That's what I'm working on. It's a long process, but
so much fun.
It's so much fun. It is. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying my time.
So, any other questions? Lynn, Cece, Manon, I want to thank you so much for stepping up today and helping me out. You guys rock.
You're a rock star. Now, yeah, you're a rock star. Now we get to go listen to Lynn be a rock star.
She set the bar pretty high. I just love prompts. I love prompts. So, you know, if y'all are working on prompts and y'all are really trying to play around with them, hit up Nicole. You know, Nicole's another great person, you know, to work with when it comes to prompting. Manon, Lynn, you know, Cece. Don't be bashful. You know, reach out. We're here, and you know, we want to impart information, because then the more people who know how to do this, the more the information gets out. So, you know, don't be bashful.
Awesome. And all the prompts that you had, was it in the chat in a link? Trying to go through chat now to find where I could.
I'll post them in the Slack so that y'all can just go and grab them. And I'm also going to post them in the AI Writers Connection, which is the Discord group that a lot of us, Cece, bless her heart, word spinner, she just went in between her and I'm gonna call you Merlin's daughter over there. Melissa, thank you. They have put together, you know, so much work on that Discord, and we go in there and we play around. We talk about other things that are outside of Sudowrite. If it's a Sudowrite question, you know, post away in the Sudowrite Slack group. Great group of people. If you have something about publishing or maybe a different AI, head over to the AI Writers Connection, and we're happy to help. And I think I saw a meet in there. He hasn't posted yet, so I'm hoping at some point he'll post and say something, because it's kind of cool to have somebody over there. But it's just an extended, community for people, with some similar questions, and we're always on there. And if you like to be on, voice chat, Nicole is the person that you want to find on there, and her name is Jade Fleiper. So.
And can we put these? Oh, I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead.
I've never used Discord. Is there a link that we could hit to get to the right place in Discord?
Will you put that out there?
It's there.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Wait. No, I think it went to an individual. Oh, man. This is so tricky. Bob, I'm not messaging you. I'm sorry about that. Hey, maybe we could put these prompts in the comments under the YouTube video after we post the video.
Yeah.
That's another good place to have it, right?
Yeah, that would be a really good place to put it as well. So again, I want to thank y'all for coming. It's great to be able to share this information, and I do have one request. Taking the information that you're using today, make it your own, make it work for you, and then I want you to share that newfound knowledge with other writers so that they can take that information forward. So pay it forward, help another writer.
As our exploration of Sudowrite Story Engine comes to a close, remember this, fellow creatives. The spectral light of knowledge you've gleaned from this vast digital crypt will continue to illuminate the expansive universe of your story world. Until our paths cross again in this cybernetic landscape, keep your stories dark, your plots twisted, and your readers on the edge of their seats. Don't forget to click that bell for notifications, subscribe for more tells from the data stream, and give this video a like if you've enjoyed our thrilling escapade. Your support helps fuel future journeys into the digital and beyond. Farewell until the next bite of knowledge awaits us.